Welcome back to Podcast Recovery, everyone. We are your hosts, David O.
And Eric V.
Today we are joined by our esteemed guest, Sam. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, fellas.
Yeah, man. Where are you from?
Originally from New Jersey, but now I live in Northern Virginia, so I'm right in the heart of the DMV.
Nice. And when were you first introduced to recovery?
2004.
2004. Ooh.
Wow.
And how much clean time do you have?
A little over 3 years. My sobriety date is October 5th, 2015, so there was a lot of research between 2004 and 2015.
Yeah, you went out for a couple rides in between the start there.
Oh, dude, every time I went back to a meeting with my tail tucked between my legs, ready to turn in my chip, there was this old timer, his name was Jack, and every time I'd walk through that meeting, he would look at me, I'd come in with my head down, tail between my legs, and without missing a beat, he's like, "Oh, you got to do some more research?" Every single time.
Nice.
Every single time, man. But he did it out of love.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with all that out of the way, we're going to turn it over to you, man. Take her away.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. So my name's Sam. I'm in long-term recovery. I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. I have a sponsor. My sponsor has a sponsor, and my sobriety date is October 5th, 2015. Now, I've been in and out of the program since 2004, and honestly, man, I've just been relapsing constantly along the way, trying to figure out why can't I get this thing? Why can't I put together any long-term sobriety? And I thought that maybe it had to do with the way that I was introducing myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I introduce myself as an alcoholic, then I can still take pills, especially if they came from the doctor. You know, and then if I introduce myself as an addict, well, you know, in that case, I'm entitled to a beer every now and then, right? But, you know, as you might have imagined, none of that worked out. It didn't matter how I introduced myself in meetings. I couldn't manage to put together any long-term sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I sat here forever just looking back and reflecting, like, why did I have to suffer through the last 10 years to finally get this thing figured out, you know, and that's the part that I love to share with people. But at the same time, I got to make sure that I qualify myself for even sharing that. So I'll tell you with how I ended up in my first meeting of 12-step recovery to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And it all started when I took that first drink when I was 12 years old.
What was your first drink?
The assumption is it was some whiskey or something that I got out of my mom's liquor cabinet in the basement, my parents' liquor cabinet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a dark grain Scotch whiskey. Honestly, till this day, I still don't really know the difference because I never drank for the ambiance or the
none of us.
You know, the social.
We weren't connoisseurs.
Yeah, I wasn't that guy. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it burned. It smelled nasty, but when it hit my insides, it gave me that sense of ease and comfort that they talk about in the big book. And you know, at the end of the day, that's why I drank, for the effect produced by alcohol. You know. And when a lot of people hear that I took a drink at 12, you know, the assumptions just start flying in, like, oh, dude, your parents must be divorced. You must have come from a broken home. You know, maybe you were neglected or abused. Maybe you come from a long line of addicts and alcoholics. And the truth is, none of that applies to me. You know, I was raised in the church. My parents are still married to this day. I had everything I needed. Not everything I wanted, but, you know, the lights were always on. There was food on the table. And, you know, there was no neglect, no abuse. And nobody in my family struggles with the disease except for me. But here's what was going on. At 12 years old, I was full of anxiety. And when I took that drink, all that anxiety went away. You know, there was no more fear, no more anxiety, no more depression. And, you know, in my middle school years, I was very insecure. I like to say that I don't know what you thought about me, but I was always really concerned with what I thought you thought about me.
Oh, yeah.
Until I took that drink. When I took that drink, I didn't care what you thought about me. You know, and then going into high school, I started with what most people refer to as gateway drugs, recreational drugs. And, you know, I got news for you. There's no such thing as gateway drugs.
No.
The gateway drug's the first one that you try, right?
Exactly. You're the first speaker that's ever touched on that, and I appreciate that you did, because that is a complete fucking myth that there is some sort of gateway drug. And it's just not true.
I got a great story for you, and I'm going to get there in a second. And I do a lot of speaking in public schools now, and I talk about this because You know, for some people it's weed. For somebody else it might be a prescription pill. But you got 8th graders, you know, middle schoolers that are already drinking and vaping and doing these electronic cigarettes and Juuls. That's their gateway drug.
Yep.
But more importantly than that, I tell them it's not the substance that's gateway, it's the behavior. You know, it's the intention behind why I was doing what I was doing, what they're doing. It's gateway behavior. You know, I'll look at these kids, I'm like, dude, what's going on with you inside that you can't go from one class to the other without vaping in the bathroom? You know, what's going on with you up top that you can't go to a party with people you've known your entire life and not feel comfortable until you have a red Solo cup in your hand?
Yeah.
You know, that's the gateway behavior. And here's how it worked for me. I could be at a party with 100 people and feel like the only one there until I took something. And I'm sure you guys can relate. You know, and then, so here's the story. I just found out from a school administrator that they had to discipline a student for sniffing Crystal Light, pretending it was something else.
Shut up.
So, yeah. So by all practical means and standards, Crystal Light is that kid's gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But more importantly, it's the behavior. Why is anything going up his nose in the first place?
Yeah.
And that behavior is going to lead down a path of destruction. It does every single time. I had a kid come up to me one day and say, well, what about recreational drug use on the weekend with my friends? That's okay, right? And I told him no for 2 reasons. Number one, when I think recreation, I think skateboarding, I think paintball, I think cornhole.
Yeah.
I don't think about popping Molly and doing lines of cocaine and taking Xanny bars. You know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm sure you can relate to this. Every single person I know, myself included, started off as a recreational drug user. Red Solo cups and pot.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. You know, even all the friends I've lost, every single one of them, red Solo cups and blunts in the basement.
Yep.
Every single one of them. You know, so after high school, I got addicted to prescription pain pills. And, you know, if to anybody that's listening right now, notice that my language just shifted. You know, this started off with me trying to fit in, trying to self-medicate, but I just said I got addicted to because there's some things that I don't care how strong you are. I don't care what religion you are, if you're male or female, black or white, what side of town you live on, rich or poor, you just can't fight the addiction. And it's very easy to tell yourself that you're going to take just one of something before you actually take it. But once whatever one is gets into your body, you lose the ability to control when you're going to take your next one or when you're going to take your last one. For me, it's usually when I end up in the ICU or in handcuffs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I had a surgery on my ankle, and the doctor sent me home with a bottle of Percocet. And I was in a lot of pain, so I took one pill. And as soon as that pill started to get into me, I fell in love right away. And I'm a smart guy. If one is good, two must be better, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. More is not better. More just means more. More almost killed me later on. You know, and I wonder if I would have known then what I know today about prescription pain pills if I still would have taken them. Because today I know that things like Vicodin, Lortab, Norco, Oxy, Demerol, codeine, morphine, all that stuff is heroin in a bottle. The only difference is one comes from the pharmacy and the other one comes from the dope man. That's it. You know, those pills ran out. I can't take things as prescribed. You know, I get dyslexia. It tells me to take 1 to 2 every 4 to 6. I start taking 4 to 6 every 1 to 2.
There you go.
I just can't follow directions. So those pills ran out. And then I just went back to doing what I was doing, which was drinking and smoking on the weekend with my boys. And then all of a sudden the weekend became the weeknights. And then all of a sudden the weeknights became the week mornings. And I'm puffing before I go to school in the morning. And that behavior continued so much that I didn't even graduate high school on time. You know, and then after high school, I had a lot of not yets. And I love talking to middle school and high school students about not yets because my not yets look like this. When I was 12 years old, I saw my father smoking cigarettes. My father looked so cool when he smoked a cigarette. And I wanted to be cool too. But I told myself, I don't want to smoke cigarettes. Not yet. When I started smoking cigarettes, I saw the popular kids in high school smoking weed. You know, I wanted to be popular too. But I don't want to smoke weed. Not yet. When I started smoking weed, I told myself I'm never going to do hard drugs. Does everybody see where I'm going with this?
Oh, yeah.
You know? Doing cocaine was a not yet for me. And I'd never seen the stuff. I'd never touched it. I mean, I heard about it in songs, and I saw the movie Scarface. So that was about the extent of my knowledge when it came to blow.
Yep.
And, you know, the few friends that I had left after high school started doing it, and I didn't like being around it. So I actually stopped hanging out with them because it made me uncomfortable. So I just went back home, and I hung out in my room in my parents' house where I grew up, and I would get drunk and high by myself. And to anybody listening right now, man, I don't know if you've ever gotten drunk or high before, but it is a lonely, lonely place, and I really don't wish it upon anybody.
No.
And it got so lonely that I had to get out. So I told myself, I'm going to go and I'll hang out with these guys, but I'm not going to do it. They can do whatever they want. But here's why I believe that things like alcohol and weed are labeled as gateway, and it's because you don't make good decisions when you're under the influence of anything. And I was under the influence of a little bit of pot and a little bit of booze. I told myself I'm going to do just one line, and one line turned into a nasty little habit. You know, and that nasty little habit made me do a lot of things I never wanted to do. You know, maybe lie to people I never want to lie to, fight with people I never want to fight with, steal from people, and it made this guy walk around Newark, New Jersey at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for the corner boys. You know, and I don't want to bore everybody with a long war story, but what I will tell you is that all those not yet, all that gateway behavior and all that recreational drug use turned into a full-blown addiction and landed me in my first meeting of 12-step recovery when I was about 24 years old in 2004. And when I got there, and there's probably a lot of people that can relate to this, I was always comparing my insides to other people's outsides. Comparing how I felt to your external circumstances, because I went to a hardcore men's group at first, and I would hear things like, I just got out of my third rehab. Well, I had never been to treatment. I just got another divorce. I wasn't married. I just wrecked another car. I've never done that. I just got out of prison. Like, dude, seriously, I felt like I was in the wrong place because none of that applied to me. You know, I think in somewhere in the first 164, it says that, you know, we have raised the bottom. And my bottom was this. I got in a fight with my girlfriend, and I showed up late for work. That's it. And I went for all the wrong reasons. And because I was comparing out, I wasn't able to stay clean and sober. And it wasn't until later on in sobriety I heard somebody say this, and I wish I would have heard it at my first meeting. And whenever I'm in a meeting and I see a key tag or a chip go out for 24 hours, I always say this because it's one of the most important things that I've heard in recovery. And this person said this: if you knew how I felt inside when I wasn't drinking and using drugs, you would not ask me why I did it.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as I heard that, the light bulb went off. I'm like, holy crap, it's not how I drink. It's not what I use. It's not the blackouts. It's that feeling in between drunks, in between highs. That feeling that when I wake up in the morning and I told myself that I'm never going to do this again, that I don't know how to wake up or go to bed without it. And once I heard that, I was finally able to compare in, you know, and I was able to put together a little bit of recovery. And then, so I stopped comparing out in meetings, but stuff was still getting in my way. I couldn't manage to stay sober. And some of the things that got in my way were doctors that allowed me to dictate the course of my own treatment, you know, because I got in a little fender bender, and I'm a pretty good actor apparently, and I over-exaggerated my symptoms, and I was getting a script for 110 10-milligram Percocets a month.
Jesus.
And I'd be lucky if those pills lasted me a week, and then I'd have to go back to, you know, going in people's medicine cabinets, doctor shopping, buying them on the street, you know. And I remember specifically there was this one time that I can't even tell you what round of recovery. I was probably a half a dozen 24-hour trips in by this point. And I needed to feel something because you guys took my medicine away. And that's one of the things. Like, you get to 12-step recovery and they say, this is a program of abstinence. You cannot drink. You cannot smoke. You cannot do drugs. You can have these steps. Well, if you don't work the steps, you're kind of lost inside this big, empty spiritual void that needs either a whole lot of booze and drugs or a whole lot of God. And I really wasn't given my disease either, so I was slowly dying inside. And I was like, all right, I need to feel something. The safest way for me to be able to feel something would probably be to go to the doctor, and I don't know whether it was going to be an antidepressant? Is it going to be a Valium? Just something. I need to feel something. Because for me, it was never about going up or going down. There's a speaker, his name is Earl H., and he's like, man, I like downers. I like benzos. I like opiates. I like to get to that heart and lungs working place. You know, and that's me. Like, I like to be blacked out, nodding out, head on the couch. But if I can't get there, I'll gladly take some speed too, because I just don't want to feel the way I feel.
Yeah,
down, great. Up, okay, but just get out of here. That's it. You know, so I went to the doctor, and I did some research. I was able to convince this doctor that I was ADD, and I walked out with a prescription for Adderall. And as you might have guessed already, I didn't stay sober that round, because when I take pills, I like to drink, and when I drink, I like to take excess pills. So I wasn't able to stay sober. You know, so now I'm not hustling doctors anymore, and then other things would get in my way. And I love doing parent community talks, because there's a couple more things that get in my way, and these last 3 things that I talk about are just so imperative for anybody that may have somebody in their life suffering from the disease. And every forum that I speak in, whether it's a student forum, a parent forum, LEOs, healthcare professionals, the first question I usually ask is this: if you know somebody in your life that suffers from mental illness, addiction, or alcoholism, raise your hand. And 100 times out of 100, every single hand in the room goes up. Every single time. It's the one disease that affects people that don't even have it. You know, so things would get in my way, like family members. You know, I would have 30, 60, 90 days clean, 90 days sober, and they would say things like, dude, don't you think you're overreacting? Like, you haven't had a drink in 3 months, man. You look at you. You're doing fantastic. Have some willpower. Come out with us this weekend. Just have one. You know? If I was going through chemo or cancer and I was on my 2nd month, nobody would look at me and say, like, yo, dude, come on, man. You've been going to chemo for 2 months now. Like, don't you think you're overreacting a little bit? Be stronger. But why do we do that? Why do we do that with mental illness, though? I can't tell you how many times I've been in a meeting and I've heard something to the effect of, well, yeah, you know, these meetings are really helping me and I feel good, but my husband thinks I'm overreacting and doesn't want me to come anymore. You know, or I had a young lady come up to me after I got done speaking in a school saying, well, I went and I talked to my parents about my depression, but they said I'm just being a teenager. Like, statements like that are killing people in and out of the rooms. You know, we need to take this. We need to take this stuff seriously, man. It's no joke. You know, so all right, I stopped listening to family members now. So, you know, I'm not comparing. I'm not hustling doctors. I'm not listening to family. Like, what else could possibly get in my way? 2 more things: the people that didn't know how to properly store or properly dispose of old, unwanted, unused medications. And it's nothing that I'm proud of. But I seriously, I made it an art of finding whatever you had in your house. You know, it could have been behind a cabinet. It could have been in a drawer. It could have been in your purse. I was so crafty, and it's nothing I'm proud of. But I tell people this because you never know who's in your house. I can't tell you how many times I walk into somebody's kitchen, and this is a house I'm invited into now. I walk into their kitchen. I'm looking for a fork. I open up a drawer, and it's a junk drawer, and there's a bottle of Percocet there. Like, dude, seriously, if you're going to leave a bottle of Percocet in a junk drawer, you might as well replace it with a loaded gun. I would actually argue that the pills are more dangerous because people are afraid of the gun. You know, to somebody, and think of all the people that you have in your house, your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, your kids' friends. You know, your daughter's on the field hockey team, and they all come over after a big win. Contractors, babysitters, aunts, nieces, uncles, cousins. If you're selling your house, realtors, potential, all these people in your house at any given time, and that stuff's just laying around. You know, but you never know who has the disease because there's no label on it. You know, we have this image in our head as to what the disease looks like, but it's false every time. You know, so now I stopped looking around people's houses because I have no business opening up your medicine cabinets. And then the last thing that I like to bring up is this: the people that just couldn't help but talk about it. These people kill me. You guys know who they are. You know, your coworker showed up to work and like, oh man, I got my wisdom tooth pulled this weekend. Look at this big bottle of Vicodin the doctor gave me. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you? Thank you. I'm glad you got the tooth pulled, man. How much do you want to sell me those pills for?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you don't want to sell them to me? That's fine. I'll take them when you're not looking because that's what I do.
Yep.
You know, or I'm a little bit older now. I'm a little bit more domesticated. I'm married. I got kids. So we have dinner with other people that have kids. And then there's this. We're sitting around for dinner conversation on a Friday night. And, you know, sitting down and the mother's like, oh, yeah, you know, my son, Johnny, he's just struggling so bad in school. He can't pay attention. The doctor just put him on Adderall.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for telling me there's Adderall in your house. And you know what? I'm a clever guy, too. And since it's something that little Johnny has to take every day right before he goes to school, it's probably sitting somewhere convenient, like right on your kitchen sink.
Yep.
Why are you making it so easy, man? It's none of any, but no, it's funny, though. If you ever pay attention and you listen, nobody does it with anything else than narcotics.
Yeah.
Nobody ever, did you ever hear somebody bragging about their metformin for their type 2 diabetes?
Man, I just got some really good insulin.
That's the only thing. But oh man, I'm so stressed out. The doctor gave me Xanax. Oh man, I got a pain in my back. The doctor gave me Percocet. My kid's taking Ritalin. Tell me about your blood pressure medication.
Yeah.
Never, not one time.
Yeah.
You know. So I stopped comparing I stopped comparing my insides to outsides. I stopped listening to friends and family. I stopped following doctors. I stopped going through your medicine cabinets. You know. But at the end of the day, none of that matters.
Mm-hmm.
The real reason that I wasn't able to put together any sort of long-term sobriety is because I never accepted the fact that I suffer from the incurable nature of this thing that is the disease itself. Mm-hmm. And the same thing that I had to do yesterday to stay in recovery is the same thing that I have to do today to stay in recovery.
Yep.
You know, I like to read the other big book too. And the Carpenter said that, you know, he who praises himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be praised. And I have to remind myself of that constantly, because when I get a little bit of clean time under my belt, I get 30, 60, 90 days, the color comes back in my cheeks, I put on a little bit of weight, I look healthy all of a sudden, I can walk across the room without huffing and puffing. My confidence turns to cockiness. Every time, and he decides to shut that down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I have to remind myself of that. And it's a daily process, and we hear it all the time, but, you know, it's like, you guys ate lunches today, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had lunch today?
Yeah.
So it'd probably benefit you to pack lunch for tomorrow and Tuesday too, right?
That makes sense.
It's the same thing with recovery, dude. The same, whatever I did for today for my recovery is not going to keep me sober tomorrow. I've got to do it all over again. Once I was able to grasp that small thing, I was finally able to put together some long-term sobriety. You know, it had nothing to do with the way that I introduced myself. Because I can assure you, whether I was walking around the ghetto in Newark, New Jersey, or buying pills off of some rich kid in the county that I live in now, my addiction was right there with me. But my addiction was not me, you know. This is the face of addiction. I mean, if you guys can't see my picture, but, you know, I'm just a pretty domesticated-looking white guy. I don't live under a bridge. I'm not covered in track marks. I have all my teeth. But this is the face of addiction, and it was always right there with me. But it wasn't me, because I'm not an addict. I'm not a junkie. I'm not an alcoholic. You know, I'm not a drunk. I'm just a person.
Yeah.
And I'm a person first, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And as long as I continue to put recovery first, anything that comes second will be first class. Today, I've got a baby boy who's never seen his father take a drink or a drug. You know, that doesn't happen by accident. That happened by me putting in the footwork day after day after day. And I put in that footwork first, before him, before my wife, before my higher power, because every time I put in anything in front of my sobriety, I've lost it 100% of the time. And I'm tired of losing things, dude. I mean, you guys heard my bottom in 2004 when I got to recovery was what? I got in a fight with my girlfriend, and I showed up late for work. Do you know I turned into the guy that scared me out of the rooms of recovery? Because 10 years later, here's where I'm at now. I am 3 arrests, 3 treatments, 1 near-fatal overdose. In 2018, my wife came home and found me on the floor, unconscious and unresponsive after I took too many prescription opiates and drank too much. And I woke up in the ICU with a tube down my throat.
Jesus.
And I was so grateful for that, because I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live. So I did the hardest thing that I ever had to do in my entire life, and I asked for help. Mm-hmm. You know, to me, help is the dirtiest 4-letter word that I've ever known, because it's the one thing that everybody wants to ask for, but or one thing everybody wants to offer, but nobody's willing to ask for, because when we do, it makes us feel weak. Ooh. You know, I was told that everyone is a failure alone, but no one is a success by themselves. You know, I reached out, and I got this team of people around me that helped me constantly. I had my counselor, I had my mentor. See, I have to have the Holy Trinity. I have to have my spiritual fitness, my physical fitness, and my mental fitness. My spiritual fitness is my religion, is my church, my higher power. My mental fitness is my recovery game. And whether you're an AA or an NA or a smart recovery or refugee recovery, whatever it is that you're doing, that's your mental game. And then my physical fitness is I got to treat myself right. I got to take care of myself, because when I was drinking and using drugs, I was not doing that. So I have to have all three all the time. You know, and we say it's a we program. You know, I get drunk, we get sober. I've been going to meetings for 15 years, and I heard this for the first time a couple of months ago, and now I go around constantly and pass it off as my own, because that's what we do in recovery. It says the only difference between wellness and illness is the I or the we. The only difference between illness and wellness is the I or the we. Because all my life, I got in trouble, I relapsed, I got drunk, I overdosed, I ended up in jail. But together, we have been able to stay in long-term recovery. And I always love the open Q&A when I'm done talking to students. And I had a student ask me one time, well, what do you do now that you've gotten the help that you need? What do you do now when times get tough and you feel yourself getting stressed, depressed, or anxious? Without missing a beat, I replied back and said, why are you assuming I walked away from the help?
Why
would I? Yeah, I never stopped. You know, the assumption is, well, I got help for 30 days, and now, well, what do you do 3 years later? Dude, I got help every day. You know, when it hits and I'm also very proactive about my recovery, though, too. Like, before, I would just kind of show up wherever, and I'll be fine, I'll tough it out. But I have a disease that lies to me in my own voice. I have a disease that looks at me and tells me I don't have a disease. So I'm very proactive. Like, I had 6 months of sobriety, and I got invited to go on my annual team building convention, because I ended up being first place in my position. And it was going to be all-inclusive, open bar. My wife was going to come with me. A lot of my coworkers knew that I was in recovery and I don't drink, so I wasn't too worried about it. But I also texted a handful of guys in my network, guys that I look up to, guys that I trust, and I said, hey, I'm going to Mexico. I'm going to Cancun from Tuesday to Saturday. If I call you between Tuesday and Saturday, you need to pick up, because this isn't me just calling to say hello. Like, you need to answer. So I did that. And as soon as we pulled up on the bus from the airport, got to the hotel, we get off the bus. What's the first thing everybody does?
They go drink.
They run to the bar. And I was walking in, and I was just looking. I was looking from the outside in, and I didn't want to drink. But I remember thinking to myself, why can't I be normal? Why can't I go over there and just kind of, because the perception from the outside looking in was that they were all having a good time. Two things happened that day. The first thing was I removed myself from the situation, because if I would have walked in there and just tried to act like, you know, Joe sobriety, I got this, I don't need help, I probably would have ended up with a drink in my hand, and I would have went home broke, drunk, with no job. But what I did is I removed myself from the situation, and I called my sponsor. He didn't answer the phone. Well, that's not it. My sponsor doesn't answer the phone. That's not it. I can't go back there without talking to somebody. So I kept going down my list. Finally, my buddy answers. He goes, what's up, man? I tell him what's going on. He's like, dude, and these are guys that tell me the truth. They're not afraid to hurt my feelings. He's like, dude, of course you feel that way. But let me ask you something, Sam. Why are you there? I'm like, well, because I was number one in my position. He's like, exactly. Would that have happened if you were drinking?
Exactly.
Like, okay, good point. No. He's like, all right, Sam, now let me ask you this. If you start drinking now, you think they're going to invite you back? I was like, all right, yeah, you're right. So I went back, and then a few minutes ago, you heard me say that it looked like everybody was enjoying themselves and having a good time. my new perception on that scenario, everybody running to the bar, that social hour, that happy hour, that cocktail hour, is not, it looks like everybody's having fun. My new perception is everybody's personality and social demeanor so unremarkable that they can't converse with each other without a social lubricant in their hand.
Oh, yeah.
You can't say that everywhere you go because you'll offend 95% of the room.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people...
That's honestly how I feel now.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh.
And, you know, because I make decisions like that, I don't have to worry about relapse. There are no triggers. There is no temptation. I went Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. I left Virginia to drive to Atlantic City by myself because I was speaking at a convention Friday morning.
Nice.
Now, I drove up, got there around 4 o'clock. My wife knew I was going. I had a group text going on with 4 buddies in recovery. Once again, this is where I'm going by myself.
Yep.
This is when I'm going to be there. If I call you Thursday night, you answer the phone.
Yeah.
And the other thing I did is I actually planned to be a guest on another podcast Thursday night at 8 p.m.
Nice.
So I had to be, and I was going to be talking about recovery. So I'm not going to go down and play some slots and have a couple drinks and then go up to my room and talk about recovery on the pod. Like, no. So I planned all that out because sobriety is the most important thing to me. I didn't step foot in that casino because I don't want to play that game. I don't want to, you know, no pun intended, roll the dice on my sobriety. It's too important to me nowadays, you know. And I can assure you from sitting here and talking to you guys for however long we've been talking for, I can assure you with 100% certainty when we hang up, I'm not going to leave and go to the ABC store.
Man.
Because of it. And it's that simple. It really is. And I never caught on to how simple it is because I always tried to overcomplicate the heck out of it. You know, we read in the preamble and whatever book you read, I'm like, dude, this is the easier, softer way.
Yeah.
If you do these very simple things, your life will get better. And here's the problem. Simple doesn't mean easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
But it is simple. You know, it's just about as simple as it gets. You know, and I'll end with this because when I got to recovery and every time I relapsed, they kept telling me all your little cliches. Well, if you get sober and you stay sober, your dreams are going to become reality.
Yeah.
I want to tell you guys that was a damn lie. They lied to me when I got to AA, and here's why: because I am living proof that if you get sober and you stay sober, your reality will actually surpass your dreams. I got arrested in 2015, and I started writing a book. The only reason I started writing is because I thought I was going to jail for a very long time because I got charged with two counts of breaking and entering because to feed my disease, I went into a friend's house uninvited and stole their pills, and I got caught. And, you know, if you would have told me back then that my life would be what it is today, the day that I got arrested, like, hey, Sam, like, I know things suck now, and you're going to get sentenced to 3 years in jail. You're only going to have to serve a little bit, but, you know, you're going to get fired from a 6-figure job, but just hang in there a little bit longer. By the way, when you're in jail, your wife's going to be 10 weeks pregnant, and she's going to have a miscarriage. But just hold out just a little bit longer because it's going to get good, I promise. Like, dude, I own my own company now, and I go all over the U.S., speaking to students, community leaguers, organizations, LEO, and just turning my mess into a message, turning the darkest, junkiest, nastiest parts of my life into the most beautiful thing to try to save others. I've literally made recovery my life.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a lie because I never even dreamed this could have happened.
Yeah.
That's how good recovery is to me, man.
Man. That's fantastic. Is that it? Are you done?
Yeah, he was closing.
I mean, I've got a lot of great stories in recovery, but you know, let's open it up and just kind of talk it out and see where it goes.
All right, man.
What's your take on all? What's your take on all that?
I'm gonna turn it to Eric. What you got, Eric?
All right, so I have questions. So you said now, with your relapses, were you kind of like in and out, or did you accumulate any significant amount of time, you know, during these periods of sobriety?
So between 2004 and 2013, it was no more than 6 months, man. It was 30. It was basically I was doing the 2-step waltz, man. I'd be 1, 2 out, 1, 2 out, 1, 2 out, man. Talk about turning my will over. That's it. You throw a pen at me in a meeting because I'm supposed to start writing. I'll see you later. I had a lot of dry time. Like I was going to meetings, but I wasn't really sober. Like I wouldn't be drinking, but I'd be taking pills on the side. So there was no real recovery there. In 2013, after my overdose, is the first time I really put in effort. Like I did what my sponsor said. I did an honest 5th step. I made some genuine amends. But what happened was things got really good after that relapse. Like I changed careers. I became a personal trainer. I got promoted to fitness manager. I started making 6 figures. I got healthy because I was working out. I got a couple tattoos. Like everybody was looking at me like, dude, oh my God, you should be so proud of yourself. And I went to a meeting and I picked up a 1-year chip and I never went back. And I was like, maybe I'll go back in 6 months and make a cameo and pick up an 18 months and show everybody how good I'm doing without you, but so I stayed dry for maybe another 6 to 9 months after that. And then finally, just without any defenses against my disease, every single relapse has a couple characteristics to it. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped calling my sponsor. I stopped doing this. I stopped doing that. And then I swear it's the famous last words before every relapse, I'll just have one.
Yep.
Every single time. And I told myself I'll just have one, and then all of a sudden I'm only as sick as my secrets because I just had one, but I can't tell anybody about it. So I might as well and before you know it, one drink turns into 1 year later, and I'm still drinking, and now I'm breaking into people's houses to steal pills. So yeah, it was a lot of short-term 30, 60, 90s with one actual year, some dry time, and then just an absolute show after that.
All right.
You want to go?
Yeah, I got one. How has your addictive behaviors, how have they manifested themselves in recovery?
So I don't do anything lightly. Like when I start working out, I start working out. Like if I'm going to eat Oreos, I'm going to eat Oreos.
Oh yeah.
So I get very determined. Like if I'm going to go to church, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to listen to all the music and I'm going to network with people within the church. And so my addictive behaviors, I'd say right now my thing's sugar. Like I won't have just one. Like I eat sugar the way that I drink. I'm healthy. Like I'm not overweight or anything like that. But like I crush sugar the same way that I did when I was drinking. That's probably something I can get a little bit more under control. But then again, and here's the disease part. I rationalize it. Well, I'm a personal trainer and I'm in good shape, so I can eat all the sugar I want. I still have that. I still have that stinking thinking that can allow me to, go down that path of, well, you're not that bad, but I have to keep it in check though, because, it's very easy for me to start justifying things in my head and thinking that I don't need to tell anybody about that. It's really not that big of a deal. And that's why I love the saying that you're not responsible for your first thought, but you are responsible for your first action. So, and that can go with anything. And I've used this in a lot of different scenarios. I'll use one extreme or the other. If I walk into your house and there's a prescription bill, an orange prescription bottle sitting on your counter, and my first thought is, damn, there's a prescription bill there. I wonder what's in it. That is a perfectly normal psychological response for somebody that has the disease to think. Now, if my first action or my second thought is, let's get a little bit closer and read the label. That's the problem. If my second or first thought is, I need to remove myself from the situation and go get my wife or call my sponsor, cool. Now let's look at that other extreme. Maybe you're a married man, as I am, but I'm sure a lot of guys or even girls listening to this can relate to this if they don't suffer from the disease part. You see a pretty girl walk by, and you notice, oh wow, pretty girl just walked by. Okay, cool. Now, if your second thought is to turn, stare, and then start thinking, whatever it is that you're thinking, like, whatever, so that's a problem. If your second thought is to continue down it can go, but it can go with a lot of different extremes. It doesn't just have to be recovery. So, with that being said, yeah, those things still pop up, but I'm aware of them now.
Yeah.
And I make sure that I let them out because I'm a huge advocate for only being as sick as your secrets. And if I think that I don't need to tell somebody, I need to tell somebody. I don't care how big or small it is.
Absolutely. All right. Next one. My next question. For me, like in active addiction, like you said, you talked about how it's a threefold recovery process, and it's a threefold addiction process. Like addiction affects us emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, like all of those things. And a lot of that for me always boiled down to my thoughts and my feelings. So how did you change the way you dealt with your thoughts and your feelings once coming into recovery? Because in my past, I would always drink or use in order to suppress those thoughts or those feelings. So how have you grown to change those behaviors to deal with those thoughts and feelings?
So it's all environmental, man. It's all mindset. So, when I was drinking and using, especially growing up, my high school years and right after high school years, it was all, well, everybody's doing it. My surroundings, it was all gangster rap. It was all club music. It was all ecstasy pills. Everybody was doing coke. Dude, I don't know anybody that does that stuff anymore.
No.
But it's because I made a choice to not surround myself with that filth, with that garbage. And that's, so when I got sober, they said I had to change everything about myself. I can't try to get sober, work the steps, and have a relationship with my higher power if I'm driving around listening to 50 Cent sell crack on the radio.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
So I had to change the music that I listen to. I had to change the music that I watch. I can't sit here and watch Scarface anymore.
Yeah.
That does something to me. Visualization does something to you. I can't sit here and listen to gangster rap and listen to these dudes talk about drinking lean. That does something. So I listen to more spiritual music. I read more books that are going to whatever I like to term move the needle. Like if it's not going to do something in my life to move the needle and advance me, I like recreation too. I like fiction, but what can we do to make me better?
Yeah.
And for me, it's working out. It's reading things that are going to change my power of positivity and my mindset and, the way I feel about myself. All my life I was fit in. I just want to fit in. Just please like me. I'll lie to you. I'll con you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you. I'll agree with you. Just please, like, if I do all those things, will you like me? I want it. But here's the thing. I never had a relationship with myself.
Yeah.
I didn't even like myself.
Yep.
So if I didn't like myself and the person I was and the person I'm becoming, why would anybody else like me? So I had to figure out who I was. And I'd say one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was, what someone else thinks about you is none of your business.
Yep.
That statement set me free because I have walked around all my life allowing other people's opinions of me to dictate where I went, who I hung out with, the clothes that I wore, the actions I took, the way I spoke. I've even changed my walk because I thought it might have been cooler and you might have liked me because of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then I realized, well, wait a second, somebody else's opinion of me doesn't have to be my reality. I could actually be the person that I want to be. And once I stopped being so concerned, and it's funny, we walk into a room and we think it's all eyes on us. And I see this at the gym all the time. Well, I don't want to go to the gym. Everybody's going to be looking at me. You walk into a room with 100 people and you think, everybody's too busy looking at themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not that important. I'm really not. Once I was able to get past those couple things, the mindset thing got a lot easier. It really did. Like I don't know how I lived the way I lived under the influence all the time. I don't know how I got anything done. Like my life is so amazing now. I can actually think and I have clear thoughts. And guess what? If it's cloudy and it's raining out, I might be a little bit down. I might not be all happy up at it, but that's okay. And I'm okay with it not being okay.
Yes.
And when the sun's shining and the birds are chirping and everything is going my way and I feel like I'm on top of the world, I can accept that and just enjoy it. I don't have to wait for the other shoe to drop. It's doing those little things that make my life is what it is today.
Nice. All right. What you got, Eric?
All right. So, I actually was just looking at your website. So, this is kind of, your life. You do this for a living, right? Like you're a speaker essentially, and you go around and talk to kids and different organizations about what it means to be clean and what it means or sober, and how your experiences can now help like another person. So essentially, you're taking the 12th step and you're living that. I mean, every single day. Is there a burnout effect that and maybe this isn't true, but do you think that you might get a burnout effect from doing this all the time, or do you think that just fills your spirit?
Both. So could I get burnt out? Yes. But I also have to recognize when that's coming, and that just kind of goes back to the halt. Never get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired. I would agree. I am working the 12th step every day. And for anybody that's new in recovery, working the steps, they're in order for a reason, but I was also told that I could work any step with a 1 in front of it at any single time. That's steps 1, 10, 11, and 12. So I'm always powerless. I could always take inventory. I could always meditate, and I could always help others.
Nice.
So I just want to throw that out there as a little sidebar.
I like that. I've never heard that. That's nice.
Dude, I've been going to meetings for 15 years, and I keep coming up with it. And that's why it's funny. We don't say things because we're like, oh, everybody heard it. No, not necessarily, man. That's why I don't care if I aggravate somebody who's heard me say it a dozen times. I don't care. If I save the life of one person who's never heard it, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do. Like, yeah, I've made the 12th step in my life. And is it possible for me to get burnt out? Yes. But I also know I've learned to say no. Mm-hmm. And not no and, not no if, not no but, just no. Because when I first started, I was saying yes to everything. And yeah, I started to get burnt out. But I also, if I plan on continuing to do this long term, if I'm going to help others and take care of others, I also have to take care of myself. Mm-hmm. And that's very important. My mission is to help others learn from my experience and learn from my mistakes so they don't have to make their own. And I have sponsees, and that's great. But by the time I meet somebody in the room of 12 step, or I go to H&I do a health or an institution, at that point, it's all damage control. They're already there.
Yeah.
I still work with them. And it's hard. It's hard to see somebody that acts like they want it, and then they get 30 days, and then they're gone. But I know exactly what that feels like because I've done it a dozen times. When I go and I speak in the middle schools and high schools, there's a lot of hope. I see hope in these kids' eyes because they're struggling. And I go in, and yes, I don't talk a lot about steps. I do mention I'm in recovery. I do talk about what the disease side of it is, but I talk a lot about where it started, and it started with a lot. And I believe in two things. I believe that I am the alcoholic that they talk about in the big book. I have a physical allergy when it comes to alcohol. I cannot take one drink and assure you with any certainty when I'm going to take my next or when I'm going to take my last. But I don't believe you can make an alcoholic out of somebody that was not born that way. There's a lot of problem drinkers out there. They might not necessarily be alcoholics. I do believe you can turn anybody into a drug addict. If you take 30 random people off the street, stick them in a room for 30 days with a fifth of vodka, on day 31, you might come out with a couple of textbook alcoholics. The rest of them will be able to leave it alone, no problems at all. You take that same 30 people, stick them in a room for 30 days with, 100 milligrams of Oxy. On day 31, they will not only come out wanting it, but they will need it. Yeah. And that's the difference between the addiction. I talk about both because, these kids these days have access to stuff I never even knew about or heard about. So, I talk a lot about decision-making and anxiety. And I will tell you this. It's the most exhausting thing I've ever done in my life. When I stand on stage and do back-to-back presentations for, two groups, 1,000 kids apiece, and then afterwards I stand there and I talk to them and I answer questions, and I'm in that school building for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. When I go home, bro, I'm spent. I feel like I just ran a marathon. My head hurts. My throat is dry. I'm physically exhausted. I can't get up the stairs. It's like being on a roller coaster, that adrenaline, the ups and downs. But it's also one of the best highs that I've ever had in my life. Because when I get a message later on that day from a little girl that says she went home and talked to her parents about her depression and anxiety, because when I was talking, she thought I was talking about her. You can't put a price on that, and I'll never get tired of hearing that. So,
yeah. All right. Do you have a follow-up?
Well, yeah, I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about addiction here and alcoholism, but you know, it seems evident that mental illness, and in my opinion, addiction is a mental illness. I know some people don't always agree with that, but you know, what other, besides addiction, what other afflictions have you had with mental illness, and you know, other, you know, what remedies outside of 12 steps have you used to overcome those afflictions?
Cool. I'm going to touch on two things since you said that. You're right. A lot of people don't look at alcoholism as a disease or a mental illness. Alcoholism and drug addiction is labeled as a disease by the Center for Disease Control. So for anybody that says that it's not, I would like to see your clinical proven trial showing otherwise. Until that time,
Yep.
I like that.
but I also, unless you have a trial that you've put together that can prove to me otherwise, I don't want to hear it. But as far as the other aspect goes, I suffered from anxiety and depression growing up. I don't know if I knew what anxiety was. People didn't really talk about it. And I still get anxious today, but today I know my anxiety is different than what I was like before. I would wake up with so much anxiety. I wouldn't even want to leave the house. I wouldn't want to go to school. I was nervous to go sit in the classroom. Like, please don't call on me. Don't call on me when you ask a question. Like, that was my level of anxiety. But I also have learned that your body doesn't really know the difference between anxiety and excitement. Whether I have a gun pointed at my face in a dark alley or I'm getting ready to go on a roller coaster, the feeling's pretty much the same. I have to then decide psychologically, what are these physical feelings am I feeling? Are they fear or is it excitement? You know, I get anxiety before I step on a stage in front of 1,000 people. Anybody would. But I get anxiety not because I'm nervous that I'm going to say something stupid. I get anxiety because I care about the message that I'm about to deliver and I want it to be well received.
Yeah.
You know, there's a difference. I also suffered from, what's up?
Yep.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Good.
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to follow up. I also suffer from suicidal behavior. And I talk about this in schools often because we're losing too many kids nowadays.
Yeah.
We really are. And suicidal, the first thing that most people think about when they hear that term is kind of like the way my friend Jesse ended it, which was sitting on the edge of his bed, writing his final letter, getting ready to wash down a bottle of pills with some vodka. That is suicidal. It's the last step, in fact. And for anybody listening, there's nothing romantic about it.
No.
There was nothing romantic about Jesse's brother running up to me and telling me that he killed himself. Nothing romantic about watching the tears in his mother's eyes as the detective read the letter out loud in the kitchen. Nothing whatsoever. But there's another side or another definition of suicidal behavior. And if you look at Webster's dictionary, it's defined as this: being destructive to one's own interest. And that was me. I was suicidal in that respect. Walking around, taking handfuls of pills, washing it down with a fifth of vodka, not caring how it affected me or my loved ones. Because, guys, I tell you what, man, January 18, 2013, I was not trying to kill myself that night.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get right before my wife came home. I just missed the mark. You know, so, yeah, I had some mental illness on my side as well. But again, I got the help that I so desperately needed. And that help came in a lot of different forms. It came in the form of group counseling. It came in the form of one-on-one therapy. I needed counseling. My wife needed counseling because she found me.
Yeah.
And we went through a lot together. But then we needed counseling. And that's different. A lot of people, well, my husband's getting counseling. Well, where's your counseling? This affected you too. When are you going to get help for you? So you and your husband, or you and your wife, or you and your son, or you and your daughter, or whoever, so you guys can both recover together. because we both needed to do that. And once we all got the help that we needed, I was able to work through all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I got one. You said you are a father, correct?
I am.
Yeah, all right. And with a lot of studies have been going around, and whether they're credible, I don't know. But a lot of evidence points to this being sort of a genetic affliction. It just seems to pass down through generations. So how much are you scared that the disease of addiction or alcoholism could potentially rear its head in your children's lives?
Not at all. Is it a possibility? Yes. Is it evidence? Yes. Am I scared of it? Not at all, for two reasons. Number one, I can't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
I can't. I can't think 18 years from now my son might be living on the street shooting up. I can't think that far ahead. And number two, we're going to have that talk nice and early, because it's not if he's going to get introduced to drugs, it's when he's going to get introduced to drugs. And when it happens, it's going to come from his father, who hopefully, by the grace of God, will still be in long-term recovery. And we're going to sit down, have an open, candid conversation about it, and use teachable moments, and let him know that I'm always there for him. And there's nothing that he's ever going to do that's going to make me think any less of him. He could always call me. I will always bail him out. There's nothing that he can't tell me. He doesn't need to hide. He doesn't need to run. He doesn't need to lie. He will know that I am there for him every single step of the way. And he's also going to know my story too. I'm going to tell him this is how it affects. And I'm not going to use it as a scared straight. Yeah. I'm going to tell him the way it is. I have, the very last page of my books, you guys have heard it before, Is It Odd or Is It God? I have so many Is It Odd or Is It God stories. We could probably make a whole other podcast out of it. But I'll tell you this one really quick because it's so cool, and it kind of bears down in response to the question that you just asked. So my son's 4 months old. My wife's at work. He was sick. I couldn't drop him off at daycare, which meant I had to stay home with him. I hear lights and sirens outside of my house. Look outside. There's a couple of ambulances there. So it's like June or something like that. I'm like, all right, whatever. We're going to go be nosy neighbors. I need to get out of the house. I'm stuck in the house all day with a sick kid. So I get the dog. I get the stroller. I get the kid. Go downstairs. We're walking. Pull up. It was just a little gas leak or something. Nothing big. I recognized the firefighter. It was the lieutenant who came to the house that night when I overdosed. It was him and his team. Oh, wow. And I had seen him a couple times outside there, but never in truck, never in uniform, and not with my son. And I went and I got my phone and I asked somebody, I said, hey man, I'd be honored if I could take a picture of you with me and my son. So later on in life, I could show Micah a picture. Mike is my son. I could show Micah a picture and say, if it wasn't for this man right here, your father would be dead and you wouldn't even be here right now. Oh, wow. And I have that picture. And I'd like to think that me showing him that picture 15, 16, 17 years from now will have a huge emotional impact on his decision-making.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was very deep. All right. Do I have any more questions? Hey, I got one. Okay, so you've worked all 12, correct? All 12 steps?
Oh, I have worked through all 12 steps, but I'm always working the steps.
Yes, obviously.
And the reason I say that deliberately, not to be sarcastic, is because I thought that I worked all 12 steps and I stopped and I relapsed. So I wanted to be deliberate about that. Like, yeah, I've worked all 12, but it's not over yet.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, and all of us agree that every single one is important. They're in order for a specific reason. All that good stuff. Like what we like to do is we like to play a favorites game. If you have to choose one, which one is your favorite that was most poignant and meaningful for you, and you had to choose your one, which one would you pick?
Well, working with others, hands down. Working with others is every single time I work with somebody else, they might feel better. They might. Every single time I work with somebody else, I do feel better.
Yep. Absolutely.
Number 12, hands down my best. And my relationship with God too, man, because, I'll throw in another quick. How much time we got? We good?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I'll throw in another quick. Is it odd or is it God story? So I got, is it odd or is it God? I went to court on Good Friday, 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 6 months from the time I got placed in cuffs to the time I went to sentencing. And went to sentencing. I ended up getting 3 years. Only had to serve 30 days contingent upon good behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I got assigned to my housing unit, and then I ordered all my stuff off my commissary account. For anybody that's not familiar, commissary account is pretty much your bank account where you're in jail. You can order your basic necessities, your toothbrush, your deodorant, your underwear, stuff like that. And so I ordered all that stuff, but I had to keep money on my commissary account in order to make phone calls so I could talk to my wife, which meant I couldn't spend it all. And I noticed that on there you can actually order a Bible for a few bucks, but I didn't have the money to order it that day. So I remember sitting there and praying about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, if I order it next account on Tuesday, it'll be here on Thursday. I'll have 14 days left in here. And then when I leave, okay, cool. So it made sense for me to pray, okay, next time I place an order, it'll be more money in my books. I'm ordering a Bible. And we get out into the day room, and it's loud, card slapping, inmates cuts, and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then the door to the pod pops, and I heard the guard yell, Bible study. I was like, well, wait, what? Huh? Bible, like, do I need to sign up for this in advance? Like, I was new. I had done a couple overnighters, but I'd never actually been in the ADC in a housing unit, so I didn't know how it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And my cellie was like, yeah, man, you can go if you want. And then I was frozen. I was just frozen in time with the devil tapping on my shoulder saying, dude, look where you are.
Yeah.
You're in jail. Nobody's going to Bible study. You sit here at this table with these inmates and play cards and mind your business. But then out of the corner of my eye, I saw one guy grab his Bible and walk over, so I ran over there. Mm-hmm. And the chaplain sat down. There was about 5 other men there. They all got their Bibles out. And he looked at me. He was like, hey, young man, where's your Bible? And it, just with my head down, kind of taken back, I was like, I just got here, sir. I don't have one. Mm-hmm. And then he reached in his bag and he handed me a Bible. And he said, you can keep that.
Nice.
Now, is it odd or is it God that just literally an hour before that happened, I was praying that's what I was going to do, and then I got a gift in a place that people don't normally receive gifts.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I told you that story so I could tell you this story. About a week after that is when I called my wife, and she told me we lost the baby. And I couldn't run. I couldn't fight. I couldn't drink. I couldn't take drugs. The only thing between me and my problems was my relationship with my higher power. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be a time in your life where the only thing between you and your fears, you and your pain, you and your problems, you and your addiction, you and your relapse, you and that temptation, you and that voice that's lying to you in your head and saying that you can just have one might be God, because you can't run, you can't fight, your sponsor ain't answering the phone, you don't have access to a big book, you can't get to a meeting, so your relationship with God better be on point. Mm-hmm. And that's why I bring that up, because the 12th step is what? You know, having a spiritual awakening is the result of these steps. That the spiritual awakening is that relationship that you have with your higher power. So between my higher power and working with others, hands down, no questions asked, 12th step.
Love it.
Love it. You got any more, Eric?
No, I'm tapped out.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're all tapped out on questions, man. So we're gonna give you.
That was awesome, man. I just hope somebody finds some value in anything that we all talked about today, and I just urge you that, you know, if I can do it, anybody can do it, man. Mm-hmm. If I can get one day, anybody can get one day.
Absolutely, man. I hear you. Well, you did a fantastic job. We appreciate you coming on here. Cue the clap track, Eric. We have the worst clap track ever. It's terrible.
It's wonderful.
All right. Well, we would like to thank Sam for joining us today. Thank you very much, brother.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Let us just sign out.
It was my pleasure, man. Thank you guys for having me on, and everybody just get another day.
Yeah, man. Here at Podcast Recovery, we are aiming to expand the scope of support for recovering addicts. Accessibility and convenience of helpful services is paramount to combating addiction. We work to bring the message of recovery to every addict, wherever and whenever it is needed. We believe that a powerful voice of recovery should be obtainable, practical, and at the touch of a button. Every addict deserves to hear a message of hope, and Podcast Recovery is here to provide it. Well, yeah, man. Do you want to plug your book for us?
Yeah, so the title of the book is Hands Like You're Praying. It's available on Amazon, on Nook, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, everywhere books are sold. And I got that title after I got arrested in 2015. The cops told me to turn around and put my hands behind my back like I'm praying. I don't know if God just thought I needed a clever title for a book or what, but that's where it came from, man. I hope you guys read it. I hope everybody finds value in it. And I just ask two things. If you buy it, one, leave me an honest review, and then two, when you're done, pass it on to somebody else who can find value in the message.
Hell yeah, man. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Keep listening, following us on Twitter, follow us on Facebook, invite your friends, subscribe, all that good stuff. Everybody out there, thanks for listening. Tune in next week. Stay safe, stay clean.